The battlefield was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that spoke of peace, but the hushed, waiting silence of something vast and uncaring. Smoke curled through the air, rising from shattered machines and broken bodies. The scent of scorched metal and ozone clung to the ruins, mixing with the distant crackle of failing energy shields and flickering plasma fires. Somewhere, deep beneath the Earth, the tectonic scars of orbital bombardments still groaned. Callum Voss had seen his fair share of war. He'd fought on planets that smelled like sulfur, and ones that had gravity so light you could practically skip between explosions. But this place, Row 7, had the particular charm of looking like it had once been something beautiful. The remnants of an alien city stretched into the distance, its buildings reduced to skeletal shadows. Somewhere in that mess, the war still raged on. But not here. Not in this graveyard of fallen soldiers and ruined machines. His boots crunched over debris as he moved carefully through the wreckage, rifle held loosely at his side. His squad had advanced hours ago, leaving him behind to scout for anything salvageable. It was supposed to be a simple sweep. And then he saw her. At first, she was just another shape among the twisted metal and shattered exosuits. The Zillari had armor designed to blend into their surroundings, the dark plating shifting in tone, flickering between the burnt hues of the battlefield. But the way she lay, too still, too deliberate, caught his eye. She was alive. Barely. Callum approached cautiously, weapon raised, because even a wounded Zillari was still dangerous. He'd seen them move faster than any human had a right to react, their weapons an extension of their bodies, their blades an art form. But she didn't move. Her armor was damaged. The sleek exosuit cracked open in places, revealing deep wounds underneath. Bioluminescent veins pulsed faintly against her dark skin, her body betraying the slow, uneven rhythm of life. And then her eyes flickered open, violet. They locked onto him, unfocused at first, then sharpening like a blade brought to an edge. Callum had seen Zillari warriors before, had fought them, had watched his own men cut down by their ruthless efficiency. He knew how this was supposed to go. She would reach for a weapon. He would shoot first. The end. Except, she didn't move. Her expression remained unreadable, but something in her gaze flickered with the barest hint of recognition. Not of him specifically, but of the situation. The reality that she had been left behind. "Are you here to finish me?" Her voice rasped, the words thick with an accent but clear enough. Callum sighed, running a hand down his face. "Well, I was going to, but now you've gone and made it weird." Her brow twitched slightly. The Zillari weren't exactly known for their humor, but maybe something in his tone confused her. He crouched down, keeping his weapon angled but no longer aimed directly at her. He had questions, a lot of them, like why her own kind had left her behind. The Zillari were warriors to the core, and they didn't abandon their own unless they were already dead, or as good as dead. She was paralyzed. He could tell from the way she wasn't even trying to move her legs, how her arms remained limp at her sides despite the tension in her face. Her people must have assumed she wouldn't recover. "Your kind has a saying, don't they?" he mused. "Something about only the strong being worth saving?" Her eyes darkened. "We do not waste resources on the fallen." He let out a low whistle. "Brutal. No wonder we get along so well." She exhaled, the movement slow and measured. It was the kind of breath someone took when they were bracing themselves. Not for pain. For humiliation. "You are wasting time, human," she said. "Leave me." Callum glanced around at the wreckage, then down at her again. She was in bad shape, but something about the way she spoke, the way she refused to let the paralysis steal the steel from her voice, made him hesitate. He was supposed to be following orders, moving on with the rest of his squad. Instead, he scratched the back of his head. "So, just out of curiosity, if I did drag you out of here, how many bones in my body would you break once you got your strength back?" Her lips barely twitched. Not quite a smile. More like the ghost of one. "Depends," she murmured. "How much do you plan on talking?" Callum grinned. I'm gonna take that as a maybe. And against every ounce of common sense, he slung his rifle over his back, bent down, and hooked his arms under hers. All right, warrior princess, he muttered. Let's get you out of here before someone with less of a sense of humor finds you first. Her body was heavier than he expected, the Zillari armor dense with technology he couldn't begin to understand. Callum grunted as he adjusted his grip, dragging her inch by inch toward the nearest cover. This is undignified, she muttered. Yeah, well, he huffed. So is getting left for dead. Thought I'd mix things up. Her silence stretched long enough that he thought she might have finally lost consciousness. But then, barely audible, "You are an idiot." Callum smirked. Yeah, but at least I'm not a lonely idiot. And with that, he kept dragging her forward, one slow, ridiculous step at a time. Dragging an unconscious, 7-foot-tall alien warrior across a battlefield was not how Callum had planned to spend his day. For one, Saryavan's armor weighed more than it had any right to. He'd carried wounded soldiers before, humans, with their sensible, lightweight gear. But the Zillari clearly had a different philosophy. Their armor was dense, humming with residual energy, shifting in color as if trying to decide whether it still wanted to be functional. Callum grunted as he adjusted his grip under her arms. You know, for someone who's paralyzed, you're really bad at being easy to carry. Saryavan let out a slow, deliberate breath. Apologies, human, she rasped. Next time, I shall choose my injuries with your convenience in mind. Callum chuckled despite himself. Hey, I appreciate the effort. The ruins stretched around them, eerie and empty. His squad had moved far ahead, and any remaining Zillari forces weren't exactly rushing back to check on their wounded. That meant, for the moment, he and Saryavan were stuck in a limbo of not being immediately shot at. But that could change any second. He found an old supply bunker half buried in debris, its entrance barely wide enough for him to squeeze through while dragging Saryavan behind him. Inside it was dusty, dark, and reeked of burnt-out circuits. But it was shelter. He lowered her carefully against the cold metal wall and exhaled. All right. Welcome to Casa Callum. It's got all the amenities, cramped space, possible radiation poisoning, and a very charming host. Saryavan stared at him, expression unreadable. Your people joke too much. He grinned. And your people don't joke enough. Balance, my friend. She scoffed, but he could tell she was exhausted. Her bioluminescent veins pulsed faintly, a slow rhythm that wasn't healthy. Callum pulled a medpack from his belt, flipping through the contents. I don't suppose your biology is anything like ours, huh? Saryavan's lips twitched, a hint of amusement, or maybe just the ghost of one. If you attempt human medicine on me, I will either heal or combust. Callum paused. Wait, is that a real possibility? She gave the barest shrug. I am unsure. Shall we find out? You are starting to get feeling back, aren't you? She didn't answer. But she also didn't deny it. Callum sighed and settled for the universal approach, hydration. He pulled out his canteen, unscrewed the cap, and held it out. You drink water, or is this going to poison you? Saryavan eyed it warily. It is compatible. Great. That's very reassuring. He tilted the canteen to her lips, and to his mild surprise she actually drank, carefully, measured, like she was testing every drop. After a moment she pulled back. It is adequate. Callum snorted. Oh, I'm so glad you approve. Silence stretched between them for a while. Outside, the distant echoes of war still rumbled. Gunfire, engines, the occasional explosion. But here, in this ruined little space, it was just them. A human soldier and a paralyzed Zillari warrior, stuck together in a situation that made zero sense. Finally, Callum leaned back and crossed his arms. So, I gotta ask, what had happened to you? Your people don't just leave unless they think you're already dead. Saryavan's gaze flickered, and for the first time she looked almost uncertain. Not weak, not afraid, just calculating. Deciding how much to say. There was an error in my armor's systems during combat, she admitted. A moment of weakness, they deemed me unfit to continue. Callum frowned. So they didn't even check if you were recoverable? To show weakness in battle is to be discarded. He let out a low whistle. Damn, that's cold. Saryavan's expression remained neutral, but something in her posture shifted, something subtle, something Callum might not have noticed if he weren't paying attention. She was used to this, used to the idea that being left behind was normal, and somehow that pissed him off more than anything. Well, he said, joke's on them, 'cause I'm not leaving you. She stared at him. Why? Callum shrugged. You're good company. A long pause, then quiet, almost imperceptible. You are a fool, human. He grinned. Yeah, but at least I'm your fool now. And for the first time, she didn't argue. Callum hadn't expected to spend the evening babysitting a paralyzed Zillari warrior. But then again, war had a funny way of throwing plans into a meat grinder. The bunker was cold, dimly lit by the faint red flicker of a failing emergency light. Outside, the war still raged. Distant tremors from orbital bombardments sent occasional dust showers cascading from the ceiling. But in here, it was just the two of them, stuck in an awkward limbo between enemy lines and something dangerously close to camaraderie. Saryavan, for her part, remained infuriatingly composed. Even injured, even abandoned, she held herself like a queen surveying her ruined kingdom. Her bioluminescent veins pulsed slowly beneath her dark skin, and though she still couldn't move her legs, Callum had the distinct feeling she was regaining more control than she let on. He poked at a ration pack, grimacing. You guys eat like real food? Or is it all glowing nutrient sludge? She tilted her head slightly, the alien equivalent of an arched eyebrow. We consume sustenance appropriate to our physiology. Wow, that is the least helpful answer you could have given. She blinked once, slow. It is an appropriate answer. Callum sighed, peeling open the package and taking a bite of something that claimed to be protein. Well, if you do eat real food, you're out of luck. This stuff barely qualifies. He chewed thoughtfully. Tastes like regret. Saryavan exhaled through her nose, something that wasn't quite amusement, but wasn't not amusement either. Humans are dramatic. Hey, if you had to eat this for months on end, you'd be dramatic too. He chewed another bite and made a face. I think this one's trying to fight back. Saryavan studied him for a long moment before shifting her gaze toward the dim entrance of the bunker. How long do you intend to stay here? Callum leaned back against the cold wall, tapping his fingers against his knee. Haven't decided yet. My squad's moved on. If I go after them now, I'd have to explain why I spent valuable time hauling an enemy soldier to safety. He smirked. I feel like that conversation wouldn't go over well. Saryavan didn't respond immediately. She seemed to be weighing something, considering the strange reality they'd found themselves in. You are unusual. Callum grinned. That's one way to put it, but I'll take the compliment. I did not say it was a compliment. Oh, I definitely heard it as one. She let out the faintest sigh, as if questioning every choice that had led to this moment. Callum took it as a small victory. Then suddenly, a distant sound cut through the stillness. Movement. Not the distant rumble of battle, but something closer. He froze, tilting his head toward the entrance. Saryavan's gaze sharpened. Company, he muttered. She nodded slightly. Zillari. Callum cursed under his breath and scrambled to his feet, pressing his back to the wall beside the entrance. His fingers twitched over the grip of his rifle. Friendly? She gave him a flat look. Right. Dumb question. The sound grew closer. Measured footsteps. The faint hum of advanced weaponry. Callum's pulse quickened. If they found him here, with her, he wasn't getting out of this without a few extra holes in his body. Saryavan exhaled slowly. They will not hesitate. Callum tightened his grip on his weapon. Yeah, well, neither will I. And just like that, the quiet was over. The moment stretched, razor-thin and breathless. The distant footsteps grew closer, the hum of Zillari weapons unmistakable. Callum pressed his back against the bunker wall, heart hammering against his ribs. He wasn't afraid of a fight. But this wasn't just a fight. This was a death sentence. Saryavan, despite her injuries, remained eerily calm. Her glowing eyes flicked toward him, assessing. "You should leave." He snorted. "Oh, sure. Let me just waltz past your buddies, wave, and say, 'Don't mind me, just rescuing one of your own. Please don't vaporize me.'" Her expression remained unreadable. But there was something else beneath it now, something almost regretful. "They will not hesitate to kill you." Callum adjusted his grip on his rifle. "Yeah, I figured that part out, thanks." She exhaled, something sharp and resigned in the motion. "Then we must make them hesitate." Callum blinked. "That a fancy way of saying you got a plan?" "Yes." "You gonna tell me the plan?" "No." Before he could argue, the shadows at the entrance shifted. The first Zillari soldier stepped into view, armor sleek and imposing, weapon raised. His gaze landed on Saryavan first, assessing, recognizing, then flicked to Callum, and everything in the bunker went still. Callum did the only reasonable thing he could think of. He grinned. "Hey there, fellas," he said, casually raising his hands. "Listen, I know this looks bad, but I promise I'm not kidnapping your warrior princess here. More like extended borrowing." The Zillari didn't respond. Their weapons didn't waver. Saryavan's voice cut through the air, cold and commanding. "Stand down." The soldier hesitated. Callum saw the flicker of confusion in his posture, the slight falter in the way he held his rifle. They had left her behind. She was supposed to be as good as dead. And yet, here she was, issuing orders as if she still belonged. Another Zillari stepped into view, this one wearing a higher-ranking insignia. His gaze lingered on Saryavan, then Callum, then back again. "You were left to die." His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. Saryavan's jaw tightened. "I am not dead." Silence. The air thrummed with unspoken words, unspoken challenges. Callum, ever the diplomat, cleared his throat. "So, do you guys have, like, a return policy on abandoned soldiers? Or is this one of those no-backsize situations?" The commander's gaze snapped to him, and for a second, Callum thought he was about to get incinerated. But then, to his complete and utter shock, the commander let out a low, amused hum. "You are either brave or foolish, human." Callum grinned. "Oh, it's definitely the second one." The tension shifted. Not entirely gone, but different. The Zillari weren't immediately shooting him, which was a step up from his usual interactions with them. Saryavan straightened as much as her injuries allowed. "I am still a warrior of the Zillari. I will not be discarded like broken machinery." The commander studied her for a long moment. Then he inclined his head slightly, a gesture Callum didn't fully understand, but Saryavan seemed to. "We do not take back the fallen," the commander said. "But perhaps you are not fallen." Callum let out a slow breath. "So, does that mean I'm not getting vaporized?" The commander smirked, a rare and unsettling expression on an alien face. "Not today." Callum shot Saryavan a look. "I like how he said today. That feels ominous." Saryavan ignored him. She turned her gaze to the commander. "Then I reclaim my place among the Zillari." Callum felt something strange settle in his chest. He'd known on some level that this was the outcome he'd been fighting for, that she'd never truly be his responsibility, that she belonged with her own people. Still, he hadn't realized how much he'd gotten used to her company until now. Saryavan seemed to sense it. She turned to him, her expression unreadable, but softer than before. "You are still a fool, human." Callum grinned, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, but I'm your fool." She inclined her head slightly, something that almost felt like respect. maybe even gratitude. Then just like that, she was gone. Walking out of the bunker with her people, leaving Callum standing there alone in the dim red light. He let out a long breath and ran a hand through his hair. Well, that was wildly unsatisfying. A crackle came through his comm, his squad, probably wondering if he was still alive. He sighed, tapping the receiver. "Voss here. You're not going to believe the day I just had." And with that, he turned toward the ruins, toward whatever came next, because somehow he had a feeling this wasn't the last he'd see of Sariavan. Not by a long shot.